Dr. Huebner here, Natural Transplants. I wanted to discuss briefly about some of the issues that I see when people have had prior transplants and some of the more common mistakes that a lot of surgeons and other doctors make when doing hair transplants, and what I've seen and what I correct. So one of the things that you may have seen with hair transplants is the hairline. And a hair transplant should never catch your eye. It should always look natural. No one should ever look at a hair transplant and say, that's a hair transplant. One of the worst things we can hear as hair transplant surgeons are, hey, I saw your work, it looks great. If it's done correctly, no one should know this is a hair transplant. So one of the mistakes that a lot of guys make and a lot of the old school transplants have is the hairline's completely straight. It looks like a cornfield. It's completely straight and you can see the spacing exactly even and it catches the eye. No one has a natural hairline like that. So what we do and what should be done is that a hairline needs to be staggered. It needs to be staggered up and down. If you look at anyone's hairline, it's not straight. It's up and down, up and down. There's never a completely straight line that jumps out and catches the eye. The second thing that I see, one of the more common things that I see, is a problem with a scar in the back of the head from the donor site. I've seen some popsicle stick size wide scars, even wider than that, from prior surgeries. There is no excuse to have a popsicle stick scar in the back of your head. If you have a surgeon that knows what they're doing, that's experienced with lacerations, bringing the edges together, bringing the planes of the edges together perfectly, knowing what good and bad tension is on a suture line, you should never have a scar wider than 1 millimeter or 2. Even less than that, if it's done correctly. I can show you hundreds of pictures and videos of my scars and what they look like. We correct those scars. Now the problem with that is when you cut out an existing scar, while it takes the scar out, there's no hair in that area. You're getting scar tissue. So while you can get some hair, you're actually sacrificing a little bit of hair by taking out a scar. If a patient is satisfied with their scar and doesn't limit them as far as where they can wear their hair to the length that they can wear their hair, I always opt to go either above or below that and avoid a scar. But if a scar is an issue and you can't wear your hair short because of it, and it's noticeable, it's not an issue. You have to take the scar out. So that's the other mistake I see with that. The other mistake I see is the types of grafts that surgeons are using in the frontal hairline. Everything in the frontal hairline should be single and double hairs. You should never have any big grafts in the frontal hairline. That's what gives you this pluggy, unnatural looking hairline. You want single hairs and double hairs behind that and transition that into stronger grafts behind. So a lot of times when someone will come in with this grafty, doll's type pluggy appearance to their hairline, what we'll do is get right in front of it and soften it up with smaller grafts. So these are things that we correct all the time. And the last mistake that I see is people don't get enough hair. People get very, very little result. The spacing of the grafts is too far apart. The types of grafts that are being used in the vertex, the center of the head, just is not the right type to lend any kind of density. So these are just some of the common mistakes I see. You can simply avoid them if you do your research. Unfortunately, you're more likely to get a bad hair transplant today than a good hair transplant. Even with doing your research, it's very hard to navigate between the websites. A lot of the sites seem to have the same information. People are get unfocused and they focus on the latest technology. Just because something is the latest technology does not make it better, does not yield better results. You may see the artist, oh, it's a robot, it must be much better. Again, the same surgeon is placing the hairs in the top of your head. That's only a method of extraction similar to FUE. Depending on your case, it may be an option for you to have FUE, but for the most part, if you want hair, if you want density, if you want to look in the mirror every day and say, wow, what a difference, I'm so glad I got this done, check out Natural Transplants, talk to our sales staff here, our patient advisors. We'll direct you in the right direction, whether you go with us or not. Our advice is free, there are never any consultation fees. Come see us, check out our website, naturaltransplants.com. Thanks.